Welcome back to the College Football Week 13 betting locks and predictions, and let's get right into it with a recap of Week 12. And we had a very successful week on the betting locks, won a couple units there. So let's start with the weekday action or Maction, where we had Ohio -8 in the hook, and they cover easily there. Then earlier games, we had Texas at Arkansas. We got a nice number here, 16 in the hook. Arkansas stays well within. Texas ends up winning by 10 in that game. Probably could have been a little closer. Arkansas had a late fumble to ultimately lose that one there. And then Clemson at Pitt. This one got a little spooky late for Clemson, but they do win on a massive touchdown at the very end of the game. Some questionable calls here, always keeping me on my toes. When you're playing against one of these better teams in the ACC, you are really playing against the refs. So we'll see what happens down the stretch in the ACC, but Clemson wins there. Utah at Colorado, never really a game here. Colorado did win, having a great season, and we will preview their game this week as well. LSU at Florida in the afternoon slate. LSU loses, actually, and drops to 6-4. I would have had Florida winning this game if, at the time I recorded the video, I knew Lagway was playing. To be honest, the spread was well within a possession there, and now Florida gets Ole Miss. We will be previewing that game, but Florida has really gotten it together and are playing some of their best football right now. Missouri at South Carolina. The 13 does not cash. Brady Cook ends up playing, so we got some bad line movement, just an unlucky line movement here. And in the first half, it looked like South Carolina was going to cover the number regardless, but Missouri ends up coming back, but South Carolina ultimately ends up winning the football game, so they do win, and that's what's important there. Move to 7-3 on the season. Then we had Oregon at Wisconsin. Actually placed a betting lock on this one, Wisconsin plus 14, and Oregon ends up winning only by 3, though. Close game, but not a great spot for Oregon. They moved to 11-0, had played 8 consecutive weeks, and this was their third trip during that span, more than 2 time zones. So tough game, all things considered. While Alabama did clean up at Wisconsin, they weren't quite facing the other hurdles that Oregon was here. Not Oregon's best performance. They don't cover, but get the win regardless. Tennessee at Georgia. Georgia -9 in the hook does cash for us there in that one. Great game there. Tennessee falls to 2 losses, and now there's just that stack in the SEC, which should be really interesting as people try and adjudicate that down the stretch. Kansas at BYU, and we had a feeling Kansas would win. We actually placed the betting lock on Kansas plus 3. Thought BYU might win by a field goal because A, the refs are usually on their side, and B, they love to squeak out these games, but they actually end up losing the turnover battle and narrowly lose the game. So that betting lock actually falls there. Then Boise State at San Jose State. This one, we predicted Boise State to win, but man, they probably should have lost this football game. San Jose State outgained them and lost the turnover battle, all of this stuff, and tried to run trick plays that just didn't work. You can't give Boise State that many opportunities. Madsen, Janty, and the boys end up winning that one there. Then Arizona State at K-State. We ended up hitting a live bet on K-State during this game after a few early turnovers and just shenanigans give Arizona State a large early lead, but Kansas State ends up coming back with 14 late points to cover our live spread, but lose the game. Arizona State moves to 8-2. All the credit in the world to this coaching staff who've really made good on a bad situation moving in. And Kansas State, just an unfortunate one. That's the second time we look at that BYU game and this Arizona State game as ones they probably should have had if they keep the turnovers in check. Tough season for Kansas State there. Tulane wins at Navy, and man, one of the best teams, maybe the best team power rating-wise in the group of 5 after that fraudulent Boise State performance. Tulane's got to keep it going and hope for some help down the stretch here. Then for Week 13, let's get right into it. We will start with the early games, and a lot of controversy last week around Ohio State hosting all their big games in the noon window, and I don't love it either, so I kind of commiserate with some of the sentiment out of Ohio State fans there, but either way, I think they sweep away this Indiana team who really hasn't played anyone. They're a pretty good team, and overall, I think it's been a great season for them. I don't think anyone would argue that, but I think they ultimately fall here. The margin of victory could be huge here, though, when we're talking about a playoff resume. Boise State's resume at this point boils kind of solely down to how close they played Oregon. I think Indiana could be in a similar boat here because Indiana's strength of schedule is really bad. They've played the bottom 6 teams in the Big Ten and then add on those 3 non-con games that aren't doing anything to help them, and they are in a tough place here at 10-0, probably not going to play in the Big Ten title unless they win. We'll see what happens, but I like Ohio State to win. Then Ole Miss at Florida, and they're going to give me 10.5 points of candy over the big number. Let's take Florida with a betting lock here. Again, Lagway and the boys have been playing great. Ole Miss has struggled on the road a little bit. They won easily at South Carolina, but lost at LSU. think they're running into a very good Florida team. I think Ole Miss probably wins this football game. If I had to choose, I'd probably go with Florida, to be honest, because I think they're just playing that well. But I think Ole Miss is a good team. I think Florida covers, though. And then Virginia against SMU, we're going to look for the +10 here with Virginia. And SMU, they've been playing pretty good, but I think that this game will be close. I think SMU wins narrowly, maybe by a possession, by the 7. And Virginia covers. I think this number's a little too large, assuming it can get to the 10 there. Penn State at Minnesota. This spread has shrunk slightly down to 12 at the time of recording this from an opening 14. I like Minnesota to keep it close, but I like Penn State to win, and I don't really want to bet on a backdoor cover out of Minnesota here. But remember, Minnesota has been a little bit dangerous at home this season. I like Penn State to win, but keep your eyes on this one, guys. In the second half, if you see a close game, don't tell me I didn't warn you. And then mid-afternoon as well, BYU at ASU. ASU wins, in my opinion, here. We're going to look for a potential best bet if Arizona State can get down to 2.5 or 3. I think the 3.5 might be a bit much with BYU on the bounce back. Arizona State and kind of, maybe a hangover spot here. They do have it at home, so that's always nice, but I think Arizona State is the far better team here than BYU, although I think Arizona State has run a little lucky themselves. Then the Big 12 wrecker for everything, all of the conference's hopes and dreams. Kansas have beat BYU and Iowa State the past 2 weeks. I think they make it 3 for 3 and win this football game against Colorado. We're looking to get 3 here with Kansas at the home of the Chiefs here, but I like Kansas to win this game outright, although we would like that field goal cushion just in case the refs or the shenanigans, anything happens to happen in that game. Moving on to the final page, we've got Pitt at Louisville. Tough game here. Louisville coming off the loss to Stanford on a last-second field goal. Pitt coming off a close one against Clemson. I like Louisville to win this one. Might be tuning in. These are 2 decent teams, but probably no playoff considerations here. Then Army at Notre Dame. 15-point spread here. A lot of people have been looking at this as the hardest game on Notre Dame's schedule. I think it's actually the USC game the week after, but Notre Dame probably will have some good preparation for this game. I expect them to win, but we'll see about the cover and if Army can give them a game. Navy didn't really, but now we're seeing that Navy's not really that good of a football team. Army looks to be a touch better. We'll see what happens in that one. Then TAMU at Auburn. If I can get Auburn +3 or better, we will take the Tigers here. I think they have a good chance of winning this football game because we've been saying it all season about Auburn, but if they can control the turnovers, they can play with almost anyone in the nation, especially at Jordan-Hare. And Texas A&M, of these teams at the top of the SEC, I think they are the weakest by far. And I think they might have another reckoning coming here. If we can get that 3 points, I like Auburn here. Then Colorado State at Fresno State. A lot of people haven't looked at Colorado State in a while. Now 5-0 in Mountain West play. And they are on track to meet Boise State in the championship. But not if I can help it. We'll take Fresno State minus the 2 and the hook against Colorado State there. And then finally, Texas Tech at Oklahoma State. Let's take Texas Tech minus 3 and the hook. Kind of a ugly game here. A lot of people are probably questioning why the spread is so thin. And they're definitely pricing in a decent amount of home field at Boone Pickens. But I don't buy it. Let's go with Texas Tech laying the 3 and the hook. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and comment your predictions below.